that we intuitively know is not good for us in the long term, our hearts come up with reasons to do the things that we want to do rather than the things that's best for us over the long term. I want you to talk to yourself today. I want you to say this to yourself. My heart lies to me. Go ahead. My heart lies to me. The heart is deceitful above all things. So Solomon says, when you find yourself at a fork in the road, and every decision we make is a fork in the road, by the way. When you find yourself at the fork in the road, don't trust your heart, trust God. Don't lean on your own understanding. Lean on God. Don't acknowledge your motivations, your intentions, your ambitions. Acknowledge God's. And if you do this, you will make your path straight. He promises that. Jesus said something very similar to that when he was speaking on the Sermon on the Mount. You remember what he said in Matthew 6:33? He said what? Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be given as well. We need to trust him. We need to lean out on our own understanding, and we need to acknowledge him in all of our ways, and he will make our path straight. He'll direct us in the way that we should go. He'll protect us when evil and junk try to crowd it out. You know? Has there ever been a time, think about this in your life, when you acknowledge God in all your ways? You know, many of us have trusted him for salvation, which is kind of like inviting God into our living room. Here, Lord, come into my life. But then that's as far as we're going to let him go. Have you invited him into your bedroom where all your private thoughts are? Have you invited him into your computer where all your access to the world is? Have you invited him into the kitchen where he can see what and how much you eat? Have you invited him into your closet where all your secret things are? Seek first the kingdom of God, and he'll take care of the rest, we're promised. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. Acknowledge him in all your ways, and he'll steer your ship in the right direction, your car on the right path, your life into the right places and plans and priorities. This is the path. Now, Google Maps, I've learned to appreciate them. It's a great way to get to difficult or unknown locations. And, you know, a couple weeks ago, I got to go to Pennsylvania, somewhat by choice. At least we made it fun with that. And so, you know, we were on this, and we'd be going here, and my favorite is the voice will say, sweet as it is, 100 feet, in 100 feet, turn right. Or, this is my favorite, I actually made this comment to Karen. I said, it said this a lot. At the fork in the road, keep left. Or at the fork in the road, keep left or right. And I said to my wife, I said, this will fit really well into this sermon series. You know, with that. And wouldn't it be nice if getting on and staying on your path was just that simple? Well, think about it, if you will. It almost is. The only trick to it is to override the happiness now bias in your brain, which really comes from the deceitfulness of what? Our hearts. Override it with the perfect wisdom that God gives from his word and his spirit. Let me ask you a rather revealing question. You ready? Getting personal today. If you could strip away the self-deceiving reasons for your actions and be completely honest, what path are you on that you know you shouldn't be? But you choose to be on it because you wanted something other than to acknowledge God's way. On one level, this is the one question we never want to be asked by others. But it reveals so much about us. And yet on another level, it's the one question we've always wanted to be asked because this is the area that we need the most help with. This is the question that breaks us out of isolation and pseudo-community as the church. We are community, and it allows others to walk into our lives with us. You see, sometimes we think all this that we're going through and the choices that we've made, we're the first one to ever do it. No. There is nothing new under the sun, Solomon wrote. Nothing new, he wrote in under the sun in Ecclesiastes. Of course, we can lie about that question. But I think this is such a good question because it's really saying, where is it that you haven't been trusting God with your heart? Where is it that at least before now you hadn't acknowledged God in all your ways? See, Solomon continues his thought getting on God's path. He says, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he will make your path straight. Then he goes on in verse 7. He says, do not be wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and shun evil, and this will bring health to your body and nourishment to your bones. 3 action steps he gives us, and he starts with do not be wise in our own eyes. Don't think, I don't need to consult God on this one. After all, I've done this before. I'm an expert at it. I've taken classes on it. I've taught others about it. I've done this type of thing 1,000 times before. You see, every decision, every fork in the road is a new fork. And wherever you are today, you've never been there before. And so resist the temptation to think that you know it all. That's when you get into trouble. We need to consult God in all of our ways. With every fork. We also need to learn to honor God's provisions for us. It says, honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all your crops. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing. Your vats will brim over with new wine. After all, it's all come from him. It's all his. He's the creator. And if you want him to direct your paths, first let him direct your wallet. For most of us, our wallets are somehow connected to our hearts, though, aren't they? The desires of our heart. And God says, hey, if you want my input, trust me with your output. I gave it all to you anyway. If you trust me, be willing to give. And we know this is true, don't we? We can give without loving, but you can't love without giving. And something mysteriously happens when you give. Jesus says, where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Also in the Sermon on the Mount. Which kind of seems backwards a little bit. If you love, you'll give. But God knows that if you give, you'll love. And so he says, if you want my direction in your life, if you want me to guide you, honor me with the first fruits of all your crops, the first of everything that you earn for whatever kind of work you do. Then I'll be able to fill your barns overflowing. Solomon says, if you're going to acknowledge God in all your ways, one of them is your financial ways. I'm way behind, aren't I? Tell me these things. Gotta pay attention. And thirdly, he says, don't blame God for your pain. He says, my son, do not despise the Lord's discipline and do not resent his rebuke, because the Lord disciplines those he loves as a father, the son he delights in. Sometimes we cause what's happening in our lives, haven't we? And sometimes God knows that we need some correction, which he provides with, like every loving father will do. I've heard many people say, why did God let this happen to me? And usually they're in too much pain to hear the truth at that moment. But the truth is, in most cases, God didn't let that happen to him. He allowed you to go the path you chose. God didn't want that to happen at all. God tried to prevent it from happening. He tried to stop it, but he couldn't stop us. You see, the Lord disciplines those he loves like a father does with a son he delights in, he says. That's what it applies. We want to correct ourselves. How do we get there? Don't be wise in our own eyes. Honor God's provision for us. Don't blame him for the pain. And those are Solomon's suggestions. We need to learn to get on the right path. The straight path. Jesus also said, narrow is the way. We have to be willing to do that. We need to learn more. You come back next week, we're going to talk about choosing our path at a deeper level. Also, the first week I suggested that, you know what? Proverbs is there to give us direction. Today is the 18th. Listen to Proverbs 18 today. Tomorrow, Proverbs 19. I say listen because that's what I do with my phone. You can read it too. With that. So, let me ask you a question. Are you a mule? Let's not be mules. Take anything else from this sermon today. I said, what did Mark preach on today? He said, let's not be a mule. Let's not be a mule. We need to give him our hearts. You want to stand where you're at?